start the recording. Yeah, well, hi Sam, it's a pleasure to have you here. And also welcome to all other teams that are going to look at that later on. My name is Thorsten Reitz. I'm the founder and CEO of WeTransform. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about us as a company later on and what resources we are providing for this challenge. But first and foremost, I would like to give the floor to Roman from ALR, who is going to present the use case that we are putting out and give you a little bit of background on the challenge and what we actually want to achieve with it. So Roman, if you want to, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Thorsten. So hi everyone, I'm Roman from ALR. I'm the data analytics and machine learning lead at ALR, and I'm also going to present a bit the company later on. But first, let me focus on what the challenge is about. And with that, we start with two facts. The first one is that in road transport of freight, merchandise in containers, it's more polluting to use other means of transport, such as boat or rail. And you can see in this figure here that it takes 60 grams of CO2 to transport 1 ton of material on 1 kilometer for the road, whereas it takes a third of it for the rail with 20. And there is a second fact that goes a bit in the opposite direction, is that road transport accounts from 75% of inland freight transport. And so this challenge is about trying to change that number, trying to increase the share of inland and rails for the freight transport, and you will see why that matters. I would like to start with one quick fact about the Danube that is quite interesting in the scope of this challenge, is that if you would remove the Danube and you would have to shift all the goods on it only in Austria, that would result in a convoy of trucks that span 100 kilometers, so between Vienna and Linz every day. So you can imagine how the road would be used. But yeah, as I said before, why should we care? Like, why should we try to change that number? First of all, it's environmental, as you could see from the figure, that basically you emit less CO2 if you use different means of transport. And then with the Danube case, you can see that if you offset the road usage, you increase its fluidity and you can use it. But also in terms of operations, there is a interesting facts that it could lower costs, because if you increase the flexibility by allowing to rely on more like scheduled means of transport, you would actually reduce the handling costs. And also in terms of and capacity and safety, there are interesting facts about boat transport. For instance, they follow a standardized transit schedules, which is not the case of trucks. And you can also like eliminate the risk for accidents, and there are actually a number of facts that you can see in this figure. So one solution that we would like to explore during this challenge, and that you will explore during this challenge, is basically once you have a team that is set up, you could then exploring the data sets we will prepare and other companies already have prepared for this challenge. And the goal would be to explore all the transport infrastructure in Europe with a strong focus on the Danube and Rhine. And then there would be a second part consisting of the data that is found in other relevant data sets, for instance, from the Inspire platform. And then more about the solution would be to think about what can we minimize. If we think about the previous slide, is it that only CO2 that needs to be minimized, or does it need to be a balance between costs and reliability, or risk and CO2? Those are only examples that you would have to think about. And lastly, there would be a big part about algorithmics and how we can use this data and basically that would be to build some software that does intermodal routing, and that could show how efficient it would be to switch, like quantitatively show it, how efficient it would be to switch from road usage to rail and waterways. And so for that challenge, you can basically summarize it as 4 big questions. The first one is basically like, what matters in this problem? Like what different parameters can we optimize for? I mentioned before the CO2, for instance, or the time to arrival, or could be also the what would be the entrance premium to use different routes. So that's the first question we would like you to answer. The second one is more about data, because as you noticed, this challenge is organized with the Inspire community, and Inspire datasets have a special structure, and we would like to know how we could harmonize all the different structures, especially for intermodal routing, and what kind of data would be missing to have a great to do that. And then a bit more about data analytics would be the question 3, is how we can assess the routes that exist using the answer to question 1 mostly, and then how we could discover new routes that are more efficient, more on waterways and railways. And if possible, if we could do that automatically and quantitatively, that would be the goal. And the last one is once you've built this tool that can basically assess routes or discover them, is we would like you to try to study how we can reroute the traffic on roads to improve road fluidity, and if we can quantify this in maybe other like social welfare means. And so that's all about the challenge context. You can find more information about the different use cases, a bit more information about the questions on the challenge webpage. And now we will focus more about the organization of this challenge, resources you will find, how you will access them, how the deliverables would have to be organized, and then we will also present a bit more about the tools that are there for you, and about ourselves, the companies that will support this challenge. So in terms of resources, first you would have access to software that is provided by companies such as here, or the tools from WeTransform, such as AIL Studio and Connect, and this would permit to explore the data and work with data, new types of data. And speaking about data, that would be the main resource of this, one of the main resources of the challenge, of course. For that, you would have the occasion to use the Inspire Geo portal, and as well as the European Data Portal, which are partners of the Inspire. And you will also have access to specially created data sets from government agencies, such as the Swiss Confederation one, or the Austrian one, or some lands in Germany. And then other data sets you could get insights from are, for instance, OpenStreetMap or what concerns roads. And then there is also great data sets about all Danube infrastructure that can be found in the Inspire Geo portal. And how we will support your effort is through a dedicated Slack channel on which you will ask questions or ask for support. And here we'll also provide a dedicated Slack channel for all questions that are related to their tools. And lastly, for more organizational questions about the challenge in general, you can Spectrum chat that is already provided by the conference organizers. Rules about those channels will be announced later. So the submissions we would like to receive will take 3 forms. The first one, which is the mandatory one, would be the data analysis and software that run locally and that is able to answer the main challenge questions I presented before. Then a second deliverable would be to basically package what you did for the first one as a web application, so that can be trialed by basically anyone, but more importantly, the challenge organizers, as well as the other challenge participants. And finally, we would like every team to give a brief presentation where they show the key learnings from the data, and also they could have the occasion to showcase the web application if they decided to follow this path. And so the submissions will be evaluated by the challenge organizers, by the conference organizers and the challenge partners as well, so Thorsten and myself. And those would be on three main criterion, which are relevancy. Does it like fit in the challenge scope? What's the potential of the solution? Could we, for instance, make a product out of it? Is it creative? What kind of data, new kind of data you found? What kind of new problem you thought about? And then if you decided to go through the web application path, how easy it is to use it. And finally, the final presentation that you will give will be also assessed. And maybe I let the microphone to Thorsten now, who will present a bit more about the Inspire community, about his company WeTransform, and then I will carry on by presenting with Eiler.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let me share my screen and start the presentation. Okay, I hope you can see my presentation.
For me, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, I just realized. Okay, great. Yeah, so yeah, just very briefly, I thought because we were, based on the registrations, not sure how much people actually know about Inspire and its scope. I wanted to give a very brief introduction both to Inspire and to us as a company, as well as to the resources that we can provide to support you. So the first thing is to give a very quick intro to WeTransform. So basically, WeTransform came about because we saw a need to make open standards for data exchange work. So why that's important is something I'm going to delve into in a moment on the example of Inspire. But what we do is basically, on the one hand, to improve the design and implementation of such data exchange standards, and on the other hand, provide the tools and methods to build up effective data infrastructures, such as next generation of extract, transform, load tools, and also tools for hosting spatial data, for example. On the way to that, we've also become experts in Inspire implementation. So we've done more than 150 projects by now, which have dealt with Inspire implementation on various levels, which means we know pretty much all the different topics and themes and aspects of that process. Yeah, we're a team of 9 people, and we've been working mostly with customers from all over Europe to basically make their data sets compliant to open standards. So the largest part of the work has been Inspire, but there's also a lot of related standards out there, both national ones and international ones, for example, for environmental reporting, or for spatial planning and for many other application fields. In terms of the services that we provide for these customers, it's on the one hand often data harmonization work, so actually making whatever data they have currently compliant to the target platform, to the target standard. But it's also often software development and the provision of the services themselves. So, for example, if you're a small organization and you can't stand up your own highly available, robust services to contribute to such an infrastructure, that's what we can do. Yeah, so with that being said, let's come to Inspire. So basically, Inspire is the way of the European community to address a challenge that we see everywhere. It's basically that we have an always increasing connectedness in between systems, countries, processes, and organizations. And in this brings a lot of complexity. Also, the data volume is always increasing, as are the number of use cases. So just to put this into a concrete case, we have more than 12,000 organizations in Europe which have spatial or environmental data, which falls under Inspire. And now they are all supposed to somehow bring the data together and make it usable for challenges such as this one. And that's really a big, difficult project for most of the organizations involved here. So they need an effective way of doing that. And the way that the European Union has decided to do this is to build up an open platform based on open standards. That means that instead of trying to connect everybody with everyone on a one-to-one basis, we all use a shared set of standards, that's the Inspire specifications, and try to implement them. However, what's also been seen in the last 10 years, as usual, with a large infrastructure project where many people are involved, it's actually not that easy. Risks involved, it's expensive, and it also takes a while. So Inspire has been going on since 2009 in terms of the implementation timeline. And now we are coming to the point where it's becoming something that people can really use. And that's also what these challenges are for. So we want to see that not just inside the core community of organizations that have built this up, but really that society as a whole can actually make use of this platform. Yeah, there are some pain points that still need to be addressed. So for example, when we come with a use case such as this one, there are areas where the data is maybe over or under specified. So there's also feedback from the process that we're looking at now that will be going in towards the actual Inspire implementation. Another challenge is that the existing data is sometimes not optimally suited for what we are now trying to do. So if we're looking at a logistics use case like this one, we will have places where it's not directly possible or easy to do that, but that's also important feedback so that it's something we can give back to the individual data providers so that they know what they actually need to do to make the data more valuable and more usable for a wider community. Yeah, in the end, we hope that the open standard basically means that all of these 12,000 organizations can implement this in an effective way with low risks, cost effective, and in a fast and agile way. But yeah, the challenges are going to help us on the way to that. Yeah, so basically what we're looking at really is this, that's now more or less coming into what we are doing as a company is to make this Inspire implementation effective. What we are providing is a platform for organizations to stand up their own data sets as accessible services and do that in an easy way. I think we all know about these different kinds of platforms that are out there. So the advantage is that they can usually implement a de facto standard very effectively. But of course, they also tend to introduce dependencies and compliance risks. And finally, there's often an issue of unbalanced value capture, which means that that's something that's also occurring in the geospatial area already a lot, is that one central authority or industry wins a lot of the value, the profit, and the others don't get anything. So that's something we have to also keep in mind. So we are actually looking at providing an open platform. That means that because Inspire, for example, is built on open standards, people can move from one platform implementation to another. And the platform providers really have to differentiate on things like ease of use and cost effectiveness. And that, I think, is something that's really a model of the future, not just for Inspire, but for many other areas as well. Yeah, so that is a very quick introduction. I want to also give a few examples about other use cases that Inspire can be helpful for. So the first one that I have here is from the spatial planning area. So spatial planning is notoriously data intense. So you take into account information from all kinds of areas, like where do people live, where do they work, how do they move, what are natural parameters, whether there are protected sites, and so on. And combine all of that, it's really a wide range of different data sets, and make them usable then to basically decide how you're going to use the remaining space, how is the usage going to evolve. And in the Netherlands, what they did was that they decided to build the new spatial planning systems entirely on Inspire and use extensions for that purpose. So they used the Inspire models, added some things that they needed for their processes, and have now a unified platform available for doing spatial planning in the Netherlands. Another example that I have is related to smart cities and letting citizens really participate in basically the smart city itself. So there's often the question, what is the smart city? How can I, as a normal citizen, actually participate in that? How can I see what data is being collected? What decisions are driven by this data? And using the project that I'm highlighting here, it's possible for citizens to use powerful participation apps and processes so that they can really directly get insight into any data that's collected and how it can help shape their environment and make better decisions. Yeah, the final example that I have is a completely different one. It also uses Inspire standards, but actually it's outside of Europe. So here the challenge was that a company wanted to make an effective analytic measure model, to determine mineral targets, i.e., places that are worthwhile to make to exploit. And for that, what they basically needed, because they don't want to rebuild the model every time, they needed to have a set of common standards. And they actually chose the Inspire geology standards to build their model on. And that's what they did here. So we can see that even for those that are not directly affected and have to legally implement Inspire, implementing such a standard can be beneficial. Yeah, and now coming back, doing the full loop after having this look at Inspire in the larger view and also on various other use cases, how people are using Inspire data and standards. I'm coming back to the tools and resources that we can provide specifically for this challenge. So the first thing is that we are going to set up data sets as far as possible that already comply to the Inspire standards. But if you find any additional resources that you also need to bring in line, there's an ETL tool for that. That means a tool with which you can restructure data, make it compliant, and transfer it from one format to another, which is called Hail Studio. It's open source, so it can easily be downloaded directly from our website. If you need any help in using it, we are ready to offer like a workshop or a webinar or anything that you can just join and learn how to use this tool for the work in this workshop if it becomes necessary. The second thing that we're going to offer is access to Hail Connect. So Hail Connect is our online cloud platform for publishing Inspire compliant data access and view services. That means you can both create like map services, but also APIs that enable you to actually access the data. And it's also possible to do this with extended or customized data models. So if you find that Inspire as it is doesn't really fit your needs for your application, then we can easily extend on that. Yeah, and we are actually working together with quite a few data providers to already set up some services. So some of them are already anyways on our platform as customers. Others will provide the data for this project. The actual challenge implementation will start in about 6 weeks or something like that. And we hope that by then we get even more data sets directly accessible here. Yeah, and I think that's actually what I wanted to quickly provide as an intro. And with that, I'd like to actually hand back to Roman.
Thank you, Thorsten.
You're welcome.
And see my slides?
Yeah, right now I can see only part of your screen.
Oh, does it work now?
Yes, looks okay.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction about Inspire, the tools, and WeTransform. I will also quickly present what we do at Ailer. And so basically we are hardware company as well as a software company, but we actually built a new container that is more efficient and that is smart. And we say smart because it embeds state-of-the-art electronics that is able to monitor the container cargo as well as environment. And so in this picture, you can see one of our prototypes. On the long term, what we are trying to do is to bring a solution for analytics and automation of the supply chain using our smart and efficient container on the right, together with all logistics related data. This is a quite brief presentation about Ailer, but I would be happy to answer more questions about us, or you can also find some information on our website. And last but not least, those are the awards that we are putting together for the challenge. So they are supported by WeTransform, Ailer, JRC. So after the finalists are present their work at the Helsinki event in October, winners will be announced. And so for the first place, JRC is going to offer tickets and travel to the next conference that is going to be held in Dubrovnik for one team member of the winning team. And then we will offer high quality electric scooters for up to 5 team members for the winning team with a value of 500 euros each. This will be awarded sport headphones for up to 5 team members with a value of 100 euros each. And last but not least, here is offering Amazon vouchers to team members of the third winning team. So that concludes our webinar about the challenge. If you have any questions, we would be happy to answer them later in the Slack channels. And so if you want to make efficient containerized logistics and we want to make a difference with it, join our challenge and use your best skills in data analytics, software engineering, machine learning, and make intermodal transport greener and more efficient. So for that, I quickly remind you about the plans. So you can sign up until the 16th of August on the challenge webpage. And then the challenge is going to be held between the 1st and the 30th of September, so during 1 month. And then the conference is going to be held at the end of October. Thank you for your attention.
Just a quick question from my side. What do you mean with it will be open on the 1st of September? So do you mean like at that point you will release the data and all the tools? Or exactly. What do you mean with okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so the official start is on the 1st of September. You can, of course, get access to the tools before, though I think the Here API is really going to be available from the 1st of September. I can clarify that again with them, but yeah, basically from our perspective, you can get access to the tools before, but in terms of the data sets, I think what you can do is if you think that so we're going to continuously update the challenge page with information on which data sets can be used. But yeah, with the data sets that we're standing up, we're definitely going to provide them from the 1st of September. The other ones, yeah, I mean, it probably makes sense if you start researching before if there's any complementary data sets that you would like to use.
So do you have any more questions?
Right now, no, not really. The schematics of the data, I mean, I don't know of this new standard which you're talking about. So I assume that this standard is very standardized. So the data will follow the standard, and it's kind of clear not much which we need to consider from the structure of the data. Like there's no more, the amount of pre-processing which we need to do with your data will be kind of like minimal.
I hope so.
How can what kind of quality can what kind of volume of data are you talking about here? Like, do we need to prepare for like renting a really good machine to do this, or like is the volume kind of small enough to handle on a good PC? Or do we need rent from DigitalOcean or AWS a machine? Like, do you know more or less like how much data are we talking about?
So like the final size of the data set is not defined yet, but there is going to be some data. But I would say that a good PC is going to be. If it is not, we will find a solution by, for instance, spanning Amazon instances so that everyone can have the chance to train their algorithms. Okay.
I assume, I mean, since it's all about transport, I assume a lot of the time investment is like constraints which are like inherited to a system. So like, I mean, if you want to transport something on a ship, there are only so many ships. There are only so many exchange places where you can like exchange the goods from one type of transportation to the other. So all this type of data, do we need to consider this? Like, I mean, I assume so because I assume it will be like a huge factor. I don't know.
Yeah.
So like this type of data will also be provided, or like do we need to, can we apply some heuristics, or is this available? Or?
So what is going to be mostly provided is data about infrastructure, data about schedules. Some of them will be provided, but the part of the challenge is also to see what kind of data is missing in the Inspire data set and data sets that we provide. So if, for instance, you would need like all schedules for all companies, that kind of thing, then this would be part of the challenge as well, like how to gather this data. The scope of the challenge is not about answering the question like definitely, like if it's really like exactly if you find the exact solution, but it's more about methodology, like how you find this solution, what kind of data you would need to add to your data set so that the solution gets more accurate. That's the idea behind the challenge.
Okay, that clarifies something. But still, can you maybe provide some examples of the data which you will be provide maybe 1st of September, so we can maybe plan a bit more ahead? Okay, again, like what kind of data we need to acquire, because sometimes acquiring data takes a lot of time, especially if you want to talk about the companies or the governments, like takes ages for them to respond. So we can maybe request this data a little bit, right now, like a little bit more beforehand. Would it be possible?
Torsten, you have any answer?
Yeah, from my perspective, it makes sense. So if you need to request additional data, I would do it as soon as possible, because I mean, we also started like 6 weeks ago or something like that to request access to data sets or the licenses where we have the access already, but it's not open data, so we can't directly give it to everybody. And it just takes quite a while. So I'm all for you getting started on that quite soon. So that's fine with me.
You know, but more like in the sense of acquiring data, we need to know like what kind of data you will be providing, or what type of data we can expect. So like, I mean, so we can provide an example and like, I don't know, like a few rows or something, so we can expect, okay, so this or some schemes of the data, so we know this type of information we will get.
Yeah, that's something we can do. So I can definitely provide a sample and share that through the website already. I think that makes sense.
And you can find already some lists of the data that will be provided on the Challenger webpage, but we will make sure to make this clearer, to maybe split it by theme and make it very clear what kind of data will be provided. And then, as Thorsten said, we can provide examples as well as of what is going to be there.
Okay, excellent. Then I don't think I have more questions right now. So like I'm okay.
Great.
Okay,
so
great.
I think that So I think that concludes our webinar. I don't know if Torsten, you have any more closing words?
No, nothing substantial to add. Thank you very much for attending. And yeah, like we said, so we're going to continuously update the challenge page. And when the registration is closed, we will also send out notes to all the teams that have registered, providing them with information on the concrete data sets and other aspects that we can provide. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Yeah, obviously it's a time constraint thing and we want to get good results, and that's the most important thing. Okay.
Okay, then from my side, many thanks for doing this and yeah, providing the data and organizing everything. Yeah, excited to do this. Yeah, many thanks.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.